All right, welcome back to the best training channel on YouTube. Starting off today, we're gonna get straight into it. I've already hit a few warm-up sets. I'm doing a clean grip deadlift, and clean grip deadlift just means you're gonna be gripping the bar the same way you would if you were gonna be doing a clean from the floor. The reason I chose to do a deadlift is just because I wanna be able to kind of load this up and be a good contrast to what my day one clean variation is, which is those hang clean pulls. So something that's gonna be able to be loaded up pretty heavy. Today I'm probably gonna be around 185 to 190, but we're gonna keep that same sort of sets and reps. So I'm gonna be doing 2 touch and go reps, take a short breather, and then 2 more touch and go reps. So there's 2, take a quick breather, 10, 15, 20 seconds, whatever you need. So this is a great movement to just kind of build some pulling strength from the floor. Deadlift variation, clean variation by switching up the grip, but something that you can load up and just move some heavier loads from the ground, get some pulling strength, especially in that first pull. The way I'm kind of doing this is I'm focusing on getting into what I feel like is a good starting clean position, which may not be the most beneficial for a deadlift. And I'm thinking about squatting that bar up and working on that first pull, and then it kind of turns into a deadlift because I'm just getting to extension. I'm not looking at exploding or creating velocity past the knee. So that's why I like using a clean grip, is it really works on that first pull in the clean, which the first pull in the clean doesn't need to be fast, it needs to be strong. You need to be able to be strong enough to maintain positions. Once that bar gets to about the knee, when we're talking about any variation of a clean, power clean, or clean or whatever it is, then you start to accelerate the bar and explode through and try to create as much velocity past the knee. The problem with a lot of people is when they do a clean from the floor, they want to rip it from the ground and just explode through. But you can't continuously accelerate the bar once you get it past the knees if you've already tried to rip it off the ground. Just because of the positions that you're going to have to go through is if you try to accelerate the bar here, there's going to be a point where you're going to have to get that bar back into the hip and it's automatically going to slow down. So if you think about being strong in that first pull and then accelerating through, you're going to be able to carry more velocity through extension at the top, which is going to help you get down underneath the bar a little bit better. I originally had 5 sets planned, but because of the schedule change and the fact that I did a lot of sled sprints yesterday, as long as I hit 3 heavy sets today, I think that's gonna be good. So I'm gonna throw on some 10s, be at 185, do my first set there, probably bump it up to 190, maybe 195, depending on how it all feels. And then we'll move on to the next portion of today's workout. Okay, my math isn't mathing, so bear with me. I said we're going up to 185. We were already at 185. So we're going up to 195, and we're gonna count that 185 as set number 1. It felt a lot lighter than I expected it to, which is probably why I thought I wasn't quite at 185 yet. So sometimes simple math, simple addition is difficult to do. But again, 2 plus 2. $195 feels good. So I think we're gonna stay there for those clean deadlifts today. But one thing I wanted to talk about today was how you can navigate a busy lifestyle and still continue to make progress in the gym. So a lot of people don't know this, but I am not a full-time coach. I'm not a full-time trainer. I don't do this as my career, even though I have an online business, I sell programming, the YouTube is helping out with that, but I have a full-time job here in Iceland. I work 30 to 50 hours a week, depending on the week. I'm also a single parent, so I have times that I need to be able to have with my daughter when I have her. So some of the common practices that I do to be able to make sure that 1, I get my training in, 2, I continue to see progress, and 3, that I'm continuously having fun when I show up to the gym. First thing is kind of what I'm doing today. You've got to be able to schedule things and make it a priority if it's something that you want to do. So throughout the week, I've got my main priority sessions. The priority number one is I need to make sure I get my sprint sessions in. Priority number two is I want to make sure I get my lower body sessions in. And then priority number three is my upper body sessions, if we're looking at just my training schedule. So because I have my daughter this weekend, I'm gonna go pick her up today. We got gymnastics, she's gonna have a play date with her friends. We got a lot of stuff going on tomorrow. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get my session in tomorrow. So rather than doing my upper body session today and hopefully getting my lower body session, since my lower body session is my priority, I made the compromise where I took Saturday's session, I moved it to Friday, I took Friday's session and I moved it to Saturday because it's a very iffy situation on whether or not I'm gonna get that session in. And this is a bigger priority for me. So being able to schedule out your week, give yourself priority number one, priority number two, and priority number three. Make sure you hit number one. If you hit number one, boom, you've already done what you needed to do in terms of your list of priority. If you have extra time, hit priority number two. And then if you've got everything scheduled out and it works out perfectly, like most weeks probably do, then you've hit all your priorities for the week. But being able to make compromises works only if you make a schedule and you lay it out. Just going through the day and hoping that you get a workout in, if it's not scheduled in, the chances that you're gonna be able to get that session in are a lot less than if you schedule that in. If you go, I got work at this time, family obligations at this time, I've got X amount of time in this window right here, that's when the workout will happen, versus just kind of waking up and going through your day. So the biggest thing is scheduling it out, making sure you make time for something to happen, rather than just kind of hoping that the time is available and then you kind of squeeze something in. All right. This will be my last set on these. Next up is front squats. Second thing you can say about making compromises is kind of what I've already done in this session, is don't be afraid to make some compromises or to make some sacrifices within a session so you can get something done versus getting nothing done. A lot of people have a mindset of, I can't do this whole session, so I'm not gonna do anything. My full program today had step up in it. It has the clean deadlifts, it has front squats, it has some other accessory work, and I'm gonna need to take some of that accessory out because yesterday I had a hard sled session. So rather than just absolutely destroying my legs back-to-back days, you make a compromise and again, focus on what the priority is for that session, just like you would throughout the week. Get done what you want to get done and make sure that you're getting something in versus going, I can't get the session in today. I don't have enough time to get every exercise in, every set, every rep. So I'm just not going to do anything. I've had many days where I've gone to the gym and I've just squatted and left, or I've just hit power cleans and I've left because that was the priority for me. And I didn't have time to really get much else done that day because maybe I've only had 30 to 40 minutes to train. Maybe I only had an hour to train, I can get two things in. Being able to make compromises and figuring out how you get your sessions done is another big thing in terms of like scheduling. And if you're following a program, like my unit programs, or if you're on the subscription program, that's all laid out for you within the program because what's the most important thing is gonna be done first in the session. So clean grip deadlifts and front squats are the most important thing to get done. If I only had 40 minutes to train, I could get 3 sets of each in and still have gotten some work done versus trying to do 5 sets of each and then look at 5 sets of step ups or whatever it might be and going, you know, I don't have enough time to get that whole session in, so I'm just gonna bail. Following a program is great. And if a program is set up the way that it should be, your first 2 to 3 exercises should be the main priority for that session. And then everything else is just kind of secondary or an accessory to what the priority is. So for the front squats, I'm gonna be building up to probably 150, 160. We're gonna hit an AMRAP set on that to get a huge stimulus. And then we're gonna do some back off sets and maintain that cluster set that I was doing from the previous weeks. So my normal front squat days have been like sets of 2, 2, 1. So rather than doing like 5 sets of 5, Clusters, breaking that up and doing 2-2-1 means you do 2 reps, take a 15 to 20 second break, 2 reps, take a 15 to 20 second break, and then you do 1 rep. So what that allows is for each repetition to be a little bit more fresh than just doing 5 repetitions across the board. If I had some sort of velocity trainer on here or a velocity measuring device on the bar, and I was to do just 5 reps straight, let's say it goes from 0.65 to 0.60 to 0.57 to 0.55 or whatever it might be, 5 continuous reps across the board, you'll see a pretty good drop in terms of the velocity on that bar. Doing clusters allows you to keep that velocity average a lot higher. So let's say I can do 2 reps and it's like 0.68, 0.66. I re-rack the bar, take 15, 20 seconds. I can do another 2 reps, 0.67, 0.66. I re-rack the bar, take another break. I do 1 more rep, maybe it's 0.65 or 0.64. The average reps across the board have a higher output than just doing 5 reps across the board in one continuous set. That allows for strength gains, power development. You could also just mitigate fatigue and how fatiguing a single set or a single session can be by adding clusters in there, giving yourself that little bit of a break. That's the reason why I've been doing the 2-2-1 is essentially following a 5x5 rule, but just breaking up the 5 reps into the clusters. So the AMRAP set is just starting off with a big set, get a big stimulus, drop the weight down, hit some reps after that, and then we'll move on to the next part of today's session. I feel like I should address this. I feel like I'm gonna get some questions about the full-time job. So the reason I have a full-time job is because I used to be married, I had a child, and then I got divorced. So my ex is from Iceland, Icelandic citizen. My daughter is an Icelandic citizen. After the divorce, I wanted to make sure that I was able to be here for my daughter. So going through a process of getting a permit and able to live in Iceland, I was going through all the paperwork, and there's a point in the application where you have to have some sort of means of support. So some sort of income coming in that proves that you can take care of a child. I have my online business, which does very well. If I were living in the States, I would just be a full-time coach with my online business. I'd be training. I'd probably have a lot more time to make YouTube videos and do everything that I wanted to do. But Iceland doesn't accept it because it's not a business within Iceland. So they gave me 2 options. They said, you can move your business into Iceland and you can run the business through Iceland and we'll count that as your means of support. And I looked at the options of doing that, and Icelandic taxes are out of control. With the amount of money my online business makes, I would be paying 40% plus in taxes. So immediately, just by moving the business and not making any other change from US into Iceland, I lose 40% of my income, which to me, I felt like was not the smartest thing to do. Option number 2 was to get a job in order to make what they say is the minimum amount of salary you need to make to be able to support a child, and then we'll count that as your means of support. So that's what I did. I got a job, found a place that has good pay, flexible hours where I'm not working like Monday through Friday every single day. Sometimes I work 3 days in a row, got a day off and work a couple days. Sometimes I work 2 days and I get a couple days off, but I'm working that 30 to 50 hours a week, comes out to a full-time job. And that allows me to get income here so I can be able to live here and be with my daughter. That's the reason why I have a full-time job. And it does make things a lot more difficult than just if I were doing online training and I had all the time in the day to do everything that I wanted to do. Life sometimes throws curveballs at you and you got to deal with it. So that was a curveball that I had. And for all those who are about to ask, what is your full-time job? I'm going to keep that private, not because it's a secret or anything like that, but I do think not telling people on the internet where my place of work is it probably smarter than telling everyone where I'm at all times. No, I'm not going to tell you where I work at, but just know I have a full-time job because I am legally obligated, if I want to live in Iceland, to have a full-time job. All right, we got 140 on the bar. My math is mathing right now. I can count reds and greens. So we'll do a set of, I don't know, 3 on this. And then based on how that feels, I'll make the judgment on whether we're gonna go 150 or 160 for the AMRAP set. All right, we're gonna go 160. 160, I would say, is probably about somewhere around 80 to 85% of my 1 rep max. I'm estimating my 1 rep max to be around 200, given that I was able to power clean 185. I feel like my power clean has always been around 90% of whatever my 1 rep max on the front squat is. So that's kind of where I'm at with my estimation. Okay, I have one more for sure. I decided to play it safe and not really push it. Like I said, yesterday's session, a lot of sled sprints. So now I'm just trying to get done what I can. 5 on that, not terrible. The progression on this, when we look at the next block, I'm probably gonna keep those cluster sets in for the first few weeks. And then week 4, do that AMRAP, or excuse me, week 3, do that AMRAP. And we'll try to do that AMRAP at a little bit heavier than 160. So maybe we go an AMRAP at 170 towards the end of the next block, and then maybe an AMRAP at 180 towards the block after that, and try to increase that AMRAP stimulus a little bit by just having a heavier load on the bar. But I'm gonna do 140, do some back off sets, 2-2-1, 2 to 3 sets on that, and then we're gonna move on to my Nordic variation for this training block. All right, I got this nifty whiteboard right here. So I'm going to explain a way that you can take your busy life and put any program that you wanna do into your schedule. I think the big thing, like I said, is scheduling out your week, making compromises when you need to make compromises, also making sacrifices when you need to make sacrifices. If you have a day that you have where you're supposed to train and you're just so busy you can't do it, whether it's you got stuff with your kids, your family, your job, whatever it might be, realize that one day is not going to change the outcome of what a 12-week program is going to end up being. That's one session out of 80, 90 sessions that you're going to do within the program. Having those sacrifices is fine. Don't stress out about it. It happens. Like for me, tomorrow, probably not going to train tomorrow. That's a sacrifice I'm willing to make because I got everything done I needed to get done this week that I thought was going to be a priority. But I have a lot of people who look at my programs, they see that it's 6 days a week and maybe they can only train 3 days a week. And then they end up going the same mindset of like, oh, I can't get that whole session done, so I'm not gonna train at all. They go, oh, I can't get all 6 days in this week, so I'm just not gonna get that program at all. Here's a way where you can take any program that you want and you can complete it in any amount of days that you have available to train. Most people have the ability to get a minimum of 3 days a week in. So I'm gonna show you how to do a 3-day-a-week program and be able to plug any single program in that 3 days a week, however you want to see fit. So my unit 2.0 program is 6 days a week. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Not everybody has the ability to train 6 days a week. Now, let's say we have person number 1. They can only train Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You can take a 6-day-a-week program and plug it in to a Monday, Wednesday, Friday program just by simply going week 1, week 2. So Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So what you do on this is on Unit 2.0, this is a sprint program. This is a lower, this is an upper. This is your second day of sprints. This is your second day of lower. This is your second day of upper. So you have sprint 1, lower 1, upper 1, sprint 2, lower 2, upper 2. That's a 6-day-a-week program. If you only have 3 days a week to train, what you're gonna do is follow this day 1, day 2, day 3, day 1, day 2, day 3. So your sprint 1 is going to be on Monday of week 1. Your lower one is going to be on Wednesday of week 1. And then your upper one is going to be on Friday of week 1. Now you're going to continuously follow this program, but put it into your calendar day by day by day by day. So that means week 2, you're now doing sprint 2. You're now doing lower 2, and you're now doing upper 2. You're able to complete this program. It's just going to take you more time because you have less availability, which is completely fine when we're looking at a weekly split on how we can train. You're still sprinting once a week. You're still hitting a lower session once a week, and you're still hitting an upper session once a week. You're going to be able to continuously see improvement and see progress, although that progress is going to be extended over a greater period of time because your availability to train is going to be less. This is why I say it's so important to schedule out your week, because if you don't write this down and you have this planned out, the likelihood of this happening is pretty much going to be 0%. This is how I've been able to train as a single parent, working a full-time job, having an online business, being an immigrant in a country that I am not from, which has its own difficulties when it comes to certain things. Doing this on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis is the reason why I am 39 years old, gonna be 40 this year, and I have continuously been able to get into the gym, make progress, have fun training, and make this a lifestyle that's something that I love to do. So I don't wanna hear excuses. Get the work done. All right, clusters. Like I said, we're doing 2-2-1. So I'm gonna do 2 reps. Re-rack the bar. Probably should put collars on this bar so I don't have, that re-rack should be 10, 15, 20 seconds. I've read studies that have clusters all the way up to like 30 to 45 seconds, and you still see a benefit from doing that, but let's say 30 seconds at most. Do another 2 reps, and then we're gonna hit a single rep here for that last one. Get our 5 reps in, count that as a set, and we're gonna do 1 to 2 more sets after this. And there you go, that's a cluster set. Last thing I'm gonna do today is we're gonna do some Nordic hamstrings. The variation that I always start off with when doing Nordic work is doing some sort of assisted Nordic. And by assisted is I want the assistance on the way back up. So during the contraction of the hamstrings to bring myself back to the starting position, that's where I want the assistance to be. A lot of people will start with Nordics by just doing an eccentric and then pushing themselves back up, which is a great variation of the Nordic. But the problem with pushing yourself back up is the hamstrings tend to lose a little bit of tension on that initial push, and they're not actually initiating the pull from that extended position. And I want to be able to get to an extended position at the knee, be extended at the hip, and I want to initiate that pull with the hamstrings. I don't want to push and then start pulling with the hamstrings. So the way that I do this is you can use a squat rack, you can use a cable pulling machine like this, something that's going to allow you to hang a band up high above your head when you're on the ground. You obviously need to be able to anchor your feet down. So you can use a barbell on a squat rack, you can use a dumbbell rack, you can use whatever you need to do to be able to anchor your feet down. And then the most important thing is going to be having the right amount of assistance so you can be able to kind of pull yourself up. And obviously that's going to be dictated by the amount of repetitions that you're going to need to do. But start off with a very heavy band that's going to feel like it's pretty easy to get back and forth. And then as the weeks go, start to decrease the amount of assistance that band is going to give you. So maybe you start with like a 3-inch band or a 2-inch band, and then a 1-inch band, and then a 1/2-inch band, and you're progressing that week after week after week and able to get less assistance from the band and require the hamstrings to do a little bit more work. The second thing is when you're doing your hamstring variation, it's important to try to get your shins parallel to the ground. So if you're on the floor and you've got a barbell underneath you, more than likely you're going to have kind of a negative shin angle, so it's going to look like your heels are above your knees. get some sort of a pad. So you can use a crash pad, whatever it might be, to be able to raise your knee up so that your shin is going to start parallel to the floor. That way you can achieve full extension at the knee. If your ankle is going to be above your knee, you're never going to be able to really get to full extension because your floor is either going to be in the way, or maybe you can't get to full extension because the ankle is too high, whatever it might be. So try to start with the shins parallel to the floor. The way that I like to do it is hold on to the band, put the band kind of right around my shoulders, and then I'm going to keep the hips extended and feel that I'm falling down, get full extension at the knee, and then pull myself back up to the top. If you feel like it's too easy, you can just pull a little bit less on that band. Blaine. So this is my favorite variation to start with the Nordic hamstrings, because like I said, it allows the hamstring to do the work after you do the eccentric portion of this, rather than relying on that push. Or a lot of people can't even, after they push themselves up, the hamstrings still aren't strong enough to pull your body all the way back up. So if I was gonna do like a normal hamstring variation, right, that first push is taking my hamstrings out of it, and I'm relying on momentum now to bring myself back up to the top, where using the band is going to allow myself to get to that bottom position. And then the way that I get up from this position here is by pulling with the hamstrings. This is why I like this assisted variation to start off with. And then what I'll start to do is lighten up the load on the band and then progress to myself where I'm doing like half sets. So I'll progress to a point where maybe I can do 1 to 2 regular Nordics, then I grab the band and do 2 to 3 assisted Nordics. And then I'm trying to build each week as I go on those sets to where maybe I'm going from 1 rep each set to 2 reps each set to 3 reps each set. And then I'm using my band for the assisted reps towards the end. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you can do multiple sets of 4, 5, 6 plus reps on the Nordics. I haven't been doing a lot of Nordics previously. Right now, I could probably do 1 to 2 regular Nordics, but this is going to allow me to get some volume in, to build some strength. The next progression on the next block is going to be doing like 1 to 2 reps without the band, and then getting some more reps in with the band to get that assistance. But eventually I'll build this up to where I can do multiple sets of 5, 6, 7, 8 repetitions on the Nordics. I think my record when I was on the bobsled team at the Olympic Training Center, we had a Nord board and we ended up building up on those, and we did Nordics every single week for years. And I was able to do 3 sets of 10 fairly easily on the Nordics. But I also built up to the point where when you have a Nord board, it's basically, think of it as like force plates for your hamstring. Like you can measure the amount of force your hamstrings are producing because you're anchored down into the Nord board. There's a little device that's on the heels that when you pull up against it, it has an ability to measure from where you're pulling from to see how much force you're kind of pulling with. And I built up to like 980 Newtons on the Nord board for a single repetition. So what we would do is we would just fall down as fast as we can and try to pull ourselves up as hard as I can and see how much force we can produce with the hamstrings. Using this variation over the course of months, I built up to, like I said, to the point where I was hitting 980 on the Newtons in terms of doing a 1 rep max on the Nord board. That's gonna be it for today's video. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.